For more than 20 years, shortwave listeners in the United States and indeed the rest of the world had been puzzled by the mysterious broadcasts of number groups read by a woman's mechanised voice, spoken usually in English or Spanish. The absence of reliable direction-finding equipment amongst the hobby community and the reluctance of the FCC to provide bearings had proven frustrating to the inquisitive shortwave listener. However, during 1983 and 1984, considerable light had illuminated these targets, spearheaded by researchers who refused to give up. German-language number stations were discovered being beamed from a gigantic espionage installation in Nauen in East Germany. 5-digit Spanish and English number transmissions had been traced to Havana in Cuba on several occasions by FCC monitoring stations, and suspicion continued that some of the endless tape loop Kilo Papa Alpha 2 transmissions emanated from the Yugoslavian embassy in Ottawa, although no confirmation from Canada had yet come forth. Fortunately for the monitoring community, several bearings taken by FCC engineers in 1984 had been revealed to the community somehow. The target of these latest inquiries was the last remaining mystery: identification of the mysterious 4-digit English and Spanish transmissions reputed to be broadcast from within the United States. When the FCC bearings were examined, the implication was indisputable. The signals on 9074 and 11532 kHz were coming from the Washington, D.C. area. Speculation ran high. Were they from Embassy Row, the Pentagon, the CIA? Nobody really knew. One shortwave listener, skilled in monitoring and with an analytical mind, set out to find the transmitter. His journey covered nearly 1,000 miles and took dozens of hours, far from his home, but his persistence paid off. Nestled in the rolling hills of eastern Virginia, a series of barbed wire enclosed military installations maintained a low profile to local residents who weren't entirely sure themselves what they were. On a hunch, armed with an old car and equipped with a Kenwood R1000 and short whip antenna, he sat outside the gate of one of these installations just before the scheduled transmission of a number broadcast. Tuned to 9074 kHz, a weak carrier could be heard on the receiver. Was the transmitter being tuned up, or was the signal too far away to sound strong? A few seconds later, he'd find out. Suddenly, a signal came on the air, repeating numbers in Spanish. The familiar count had begun. This hidden installation, surrounded by dipoles and log periodic arrays, was the source of the elusive broadcasts. The revelation to come, however, was just as surprising. Off frequency, the key clicks of a powerful CW station could be heard. Carefully retuning his receiver dial, the inquisitive listener found a more signal tape booming in on 6925.5, 10673, 12022.5 and 15540 kHz, along with the call sign KKN50. This call sign was officially assigned to the US State Department, but unofficially suspected to be the Central Intelligence Agency. But what was this installation? Who ran it, and for what purpose? The location was Remington, Virginia, just a few miles short of Culpeper on Route 651. The sign on the gate read Warrenton Training Center, NCS Station C, US Army. If this was Station C, then where were Stations A and B? Were there more? And who or what was the NCS? Continuing his tour of the Virginia countryside, the investigator discovered another site on Route 669, about 12 miles east of Culpeper. The sign on this gate read Station D, Warrenton Training Center. A similar halo of dipole antennas and log periodics festooned this installation as well. A second transmission by KKN50 on 18525 appeared to originate from here. Stations A and B were discovered later by the investigator and found to be in the same general area. Subsequent telephone calls by the listener to the US Army Public Information Office at the Pentagon and nearby military installations turned up nothing. Either no one was willing to talk about it, or the personnel sincerely didn't know the purpose of the installations. A telephone conversation to the Public Affairs Officer of the Security Division at Warrington Training Centre was interesting but not informative. The listener asked, "Who are you training? What agency is responsible for the KKN 50 tapes? And what is the purpose of the numbers transmissions?" In each case, the officer replied, "This is a closed and classified facility. I'm not at liberty to discuss this, and I suggest you call the Department of Defence Public Affairs Office." In a publication released on December 4th, 1983, an author revealed that NCS apparently stood for the National Communications System. Now that the origin of the US number station had been determined, that part of the mystery had been solved, yet questions continued to linger for many years. However, later on, more and more information relating to the site had come to light. Warrington Training Centre is spread across 4 separate facilities in 2 counties. Station A, Station B and Station C are located in Fauquier County, while Station D is located in Culpeper County. Station A near Warrington is an administrative, training and residential compound. Numerous structures on the site include both residential and office buildings. Station A is used as a training facility by multiple agencies, including the Department of State and the CIA's Directorate of Intelligence and Directorate of Support. Station B, also near Warrington, houses the headquarters of WTC and, at 346 acres, is the largest of the 4 facilities. It consists of several multi-storey buildings concealed at the top of the heavily forested Viewtree Mountain, as well as 2 data centre facilities and underground bunkers that house communications infrastructure. Operations at Station B include a communications laboratory, communications training, electronics testing, and equipment maintenance. The facility is a node on a fibre optic cable that runs from stations C and D and which also connects WTC with other facilities in the Washington DC area, such as the Tysons Corner Communications Tower, also referred to as Site E. Station B also houses the Brushwood Conference Facility constructed in the 1990s. Station C was at one time a CIA number station which transmitted coded signals to US embassies overseas and intelligence agencies in the field, which is what the shortwave listener in this story had found. Station D, also known as Brandy Station due to its proximity to the community of the same name, is the primary high-frequency receiver facility for the CIA Office of Communications and also hosts a variety of satellite communications ground station facilities. Station D is also a core regional relay facility for the Department of State's Diplomatic Telecommunications Service, a system of secure integrated networks that supports US government departments and agencies operating from diplomatic missions and consulate facilities outside of the United States. Station D has seen significant construction in recent years, including several large data center-like buildings, satellite dishes, and radomes. The CIA has used Warrington Training Centre as a communications facility since the 1950s. Shortwave radio enthusiasts identified some of their antennas and alleged they were broadcasting suspected intelligence transmissions. In 1989, a WTC spokesperson acknowledged that the stations are, quote, operated to communicate with embassies and for espionage transmissions to American intelligence agents in Cuba and Central America. In 1989, a former NSA employee told the Baltimore Sun that WTC's communications training included listening in on the phone calls of American citizens using a loophole in the 1978 Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act that permitted domestic eavesdropping so long as the tapes were destroyed immediately afterwards. In 1998, laboratories at WTC were reported to be producing concealed radio equipment used to send and receive communications, typically in the form of furniture items. Warrington Training Centre has continued its role as a communications training facility for various government agencies, including the CIA, the NSA, Department of Defense, and the Department of State's Foreign Service Institute. The transmissions that the shortwave listener heard and traced carried a female voice, affectionately known as Cynthia by radio hobbyists. Early reports of these transmissions, codenamed E05, can be traced to the 1970s. E05 was one of the English language stations maintained by the CIA's network, thus earning its nickname Cynthia. E05 transmitted for the last time before it fell silent in October of 2003.